Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Hello everyone, welcome to the show. Lots of packed action to look back on. It's going to be a fast and furious show, and we're going to start, Ruby, by taking a look at Energumene. First of all, it was great to see him back and jumping with that verve as well.
Yeah, he did. He was seems to be in good form. His work at home had been good beforehand, listening to Willie and Paul, and yeah, he was good. It was a dramatic sort of a contest, but it was a good performance from him. Great to have him back, but the conditions of the race really suited him, and he took full advantage of that. He
did. Now, Willie had been saying that he'd been hitting every training target beforehand, and clearly, as you bring a horse back from that kind of absence, you're not going to have them out of condition, are you? He was presumably pretty much.
He did. He looked good and ready in the parade ring in Cork on Sunday. Possibly looked readier than one or two of his stablemates to the naked eye, anyway, in the paddock. But it was a good performance. He showed plenty of verve, and look, all roads possibly lead to the Clarence House, and that could end up being a fair match between himself and the Tingle Creek winner.
Yeah, we'll be taking a look at Jonbon obviously later in the show. First of all, let's get a handle on how the Hilly Way was run. We're going to compare it, or rather Ruby is, with the Grade 2 Mares Chase that was run over the same course of distance with one
huge difference. So we're only going to look at the beginning of it until the last fence, because the fifth fence in the Hilly Way was out because of low-lying sun in Kerry. But here you go from the start to the first. You can see the Mares Chase in the bottom right. They got to the first fence quicker than the Hilly Way did, and they got to the first four fences. And the further they went through the first part of this race, the further in front the mares got. Airdrop and Nara on the right of your shot are now considerably in front of Energumene and Dino Blue. When they get to the third fence, again, that gap is still the very same. So the mares went a really good gallop very early, whereas the Hilly Way built into the contest. It was steadily run, especially for open 2 mile chasers compared to novices. It was quite steadily run, but I'm afraid that is where the comparison has to stop, because they took different courses from there.
Yeah, so I suppose what we're saying is that slightly undermines, whilst it looked great from Energumene, it sort of undermines the level of the form, doesn't it?
It did. It was a race that built throughout the race. It had a pretty high finishing speed percentage as well, but I'm not saying it turned into a dash, because Energumene did open it up down the back, but it wasn't top drawer. It wasn't an end-to-end contest. It wasn't a John Durkin.
No, absolutely. Well, you mentioned the John Durkin. This was a race that was also well populated by Willie Mullins. Let's have your up-close analysis of the Hilly Way.
Yeah, look, we saw it there from the beginning. Dino Blue, who does like to race prominently, booked out with Energumene. You had Banbridge, Blue Lord, Fernie Hollow, Appreciated, Hunter's Yarn and the Bangor Doyle. And the third fence, Energumene jumped to the front. That's the fence they bypassed. They couldn't jump to one outside. They dropped the Bangor Doyle at the fifth fence, but there was a huge bunch of them. They got the four out. Now Paul was increasing it on the front end. He came side Energumene, who crashed through the third last. We don't see the second last, and again at the last he jumps where Banbridge unseats Richie Deegan. But I thought when Paul gave him a backhander there, he obviously thought Richie Deegan was still on Banbridge because he rode him all the way to the line. I did think he pulled out a bit, and he ends up beating Dino Blue by 10 lengths, who he was getting £3 from.
And yeah, conceding £10 Banbridge was to Energumene. As you said, all the race conditions favoured the dual previous winner.
They did. Obviously Banbridge had the penalty for winning in Punchestown last April, whereas Energumene's penalties are gone. It's that long since he won a Grade 1. But the conditions suited him. Paul, talking to him after, thought the ground was just about soft enough for him, that he'd like it a bit deeper again. But look, it was great that he went and won. It's good to have him back, and he adds spice to the division.
Willie Mullins wasn't completely convinced about how much more improvement there was going to be, particularly given the age he is.
Yeah, and that's feasible. He's not getting any younger. It's great to have him back. Can he scale the heights that he once did? Only time is going to tell. And look, strictly on the book. Now, having said that, strictly on the book, did Jonbon achieve any more at Sandown?
I think he did a bit more.
Fractionally? Not much. I mean, the ratings of the second, third and fourth in Sandown weren't off the charts either. So, look, he got the job done, but the concession of £10 is a huge thing.
Yeah, no, I'm going to revise that. I think he did achieve quite a bit more than Energumene, just because of the way the weights were. He'll be 11 years of age in March. He'll be 11 years of age for the Clarence House. The last horse to win the Champion Chase at the age of 11?
Hurley man.
Moscow Flyer.
Moscow Flyer.
2005. Only 2 horses have actually ever done it. Sky Mass was the other one back in 76. He won it as a 12-year-old for good measure as well. But it's rare, is the point.
Yeah, it is rare. And but what's rare is beautiful.
How profound. That's lovely. If Banbridge hadn't jinked right and unseated Richie Deegan, I know you're going to look at that from the perspective of both jockeys in a moment, but do you think he would have beaten Energumene?
I thought live when I was watching it that there was a chance that he was coming to beat Energumene, but when I watched the replays of it and actually watched a different angle from the other side, Banbridge was further back than I thought. And I thought Energumene did pull out plenty when Paul gave him a backhander on the run-in. So no, I don't think he was coming to beat him, but I don't believe Banbridge is an out-and-out 2-miler either. And I know he won at 2 miles in Punchestown, but I do think he's a better horse going a bit further. Yeah,
I tend to agree with that. Banbridge might well be going for the King George, provided the ground isn't too soft. So he's got to prove his stamina for 3 miles. He's only tried it once at Aintree and was beaten before stamina was an issue. That was as a novice hurdler, I think. Dino Blue disappointed me in terms of the way that she was jumping. She just looked a little bit too careful.
She did. It wasn't one of her better days, considering she jumped brilliantly there as a novice at Cork. But I did think, looking at them in the ring, I thought she looked a bit rounder than the others.
Right.
She looked like the one that was going to improve it from them all.
That's interesting. And Blue Lord, we hadn't seen him for a very long time.
Good to have him back. I don't know. I've always thought he was a better 2.5 miler, a bit like Banbridge, yet his best form is at 2. So he's a bit of a head scratcher. But again, he seems to come out of the race well. So onwards to Christmas, I'd imagine.
As Ruby has referred to, though, it was a very eventful race, and sadly, as you'll all know, we lost Fernie Hollow in that race. A bit of a star-crossed horse in his career, but a hugely talented one on his day. A Grade 3 winner in February. Sadly, he took a fall at the second last, from which he never recovered. So, as I mentioned, Ruby is going to take a look at that final fence incident that the Cork stewards also looked into and found no riding offence. Ruby's going to take a look at it from the perspective of Paul Townend and Richie Deegan. This is Analyse This.
Yeah, so the end of the Hillyway chase did seem to cause a bit of controversy, so we're going to have a look back at it. And Paul Townend turned in front aboard Energumene, so he's entitled to come wherever he does on the track. Now he squeezes Energumene to the third last and he hits it a fair dig. The second last, to me, he rides in the very same way. Forward, same contact with the reins, tapping him down the shoulder. Now he doesn't tap him down the shoulder at the last, but he commits him in the very same way, and Energumene shifts off to his right in front of Banbridge, who gets rid of Richie Deegan. Now if we watch it from Richie Deegan's point of view, I would agree with the Cork stewards. I don't see what Paul Townend could have done there. I think he's done the very same thing 3 times. Richie Deegan's point of view, when we look back at Banbridge, well, Energumene does come across him at the third last fence, and we can see that again here in a second. Banbridge, Richie Deegan, Energumene on the left, jumps across him. Second last fence, he doesn't jump across him as much, but he does jump slightly in front of him, and then to the last fence, he does. But if you watch here, as Energumene drifts, Banbridge jinks, jams on, and Richie Deegan's body weight is gone. Now, to look back at that, I'm sure Richie Deegan is thinking, I should have stayed more to the right. If you're looking at it from Paul Townend's point of view, Energumene always goes right, but never that right, until you look back at him in Gorham Park, when Paul Townend came stand side on him. And when you watch him in Gorham Park, when he came to the outside of the track and gave the horse the whole fence, he does run across it. Third last quite bad, second last not too bad, last fence very bad. So Richie Deegan would like another go to stay further away from Energumene, but I think if you gave Paul Townend another go, he'd have stayed on the other side of the track, because giving a horse that much room to run across makes the fences bigger and makes riding them harder.
I can see that. And that is Energumene's method of taking off, isn't it?
It is, but he shifts only a little bit. I watched back all his runs at Punchestown, Cheltenham, everywhere. He does go a fraction right, but never as drastically as he did at Cork, only at Gorn, when you gave him the whole fence to do it in. So I think Paul will remember that too.
OK. Fascinating. That was Analyse This. Well, we promised you Jonbon, and Jonbon is where we're going to go next. And again, we're going to get an idea of how the Tingle Creek was run, with a comparison with the novices course and distance, definitely course and distance this time, run on the same card, the Henry VIII.
Yeah, it was. And look, often the Henry VIII has been the quicker of the 2 races, but on Saturday, it turned out to be the Tingle Creek. Through the start, the novices are in front, but by the second fence, Calixius has gotten in front of Touch Me Not. Down the hill to fence 4, you can see how far the Tingle Creek is in front of the Henry VIII. Last of the railways, Jonbon is still nicely in front of Touch Me Not and Load of Sud. Second last fence, Jonbon wasn't great, neither was Load of Sud, but Jonbon is still in front. So, look, what we can tell from that is definitely the novices finished a little better, but Tingle Creek was running a stronger gallop.
They were relatively similarly run, weren't they? Albeit that Jonbon was better at all stages.
Relatively similar, only Touch Me Not would have still been behind Edwardstone when he fell. So you might be looking at it thinking he was too far back. Looking at the jumping figures, none of the novices managed to lose on average less than 4 miles an hour when they were jumping. Now, Load of Sud's figure and Touch Me Not's are affected by mistakes at, obviously Touch Me Not's at the 6th, Load of Sud's at the second last and the last, so they are the two with the improvement, and down Memory Lane was quite slow. If you think that Jonbon lost over 7 miles per hour at the second fence, that inflates his figure as well of speed loss. So I think when you start looking at those things, to be at the top level 2 mile chasing, I'd say you need to be losing a little less than 4 miles per hour per fence.
Yeah. I can see that. The thing I do like about Jonbon is that he can win races any way round, though, can't he? he can go hard or he can sprint. He's quite versatile in that regard.
Yeah, funny, they don't ride him much to sprint. They drag it through the last mile if they go steady. But look, he's won over 2.5. He just does what it says in the tin.
Let's take an up-close look at the Tingle Creek, including that mistake at the second from Jonbon.
Yeah, and look, obviously they jumped out. Calixios, Johnny Burke stepping in for Darragh O'Keefe. Solanus now the inside, he rubs or hits the first fence and lands out on his head. And Jonbon at the second half guesses and loses a lot of momentum. Ends up right back beside Edwardstone. Solanus never got into a rhythm. We lost Master Chewy at the fence before the water. Jonbon then attacked the 3 railway fences, and Edwardstone gets unlucky at the last one, but you just love the way Jonbon, Nico's always able to keep pressing forward on him, and even if he gets in deep, he doesn't have to take him back, he just keeps squeezing Jonbon forward, and Jonbon puts himself right. And then Edwardstone caught the top and dribbled over. Look, it was great to see him getting up, but Jonbon then didn't slow down from the railways to the pond. Bunny hops the second last fence, again has a good look at the last, but he just always felt he was going to win, and he's always just doing enough. And yeah, I probably did agree with you at the weekend. I think he achieved more than Energumene did, and I still think he's the horse to beat in the championships.
Yes, he's not quite reached the, or as consistently as Altior has, the level that he did. You know, Sprinter Sacra's a monster, obviously. Shishkin's got that one brilliant one against Energumene in the Clarence House. This is a high-class, consistent horse, but if there's another high-class horse that comes along, it's not a frightening level. I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, you are explaining yourself, but still 19 runs, 16 wins, unlucky not to be 17. That mistake in the Clarence House cost him that. He didn't jump in an Arkle and he got beaten by Constitution Hill.
Yeah. He's a tremendous horse.
He is.
The consistency, the durability.
Yeah, and that's the part that I love.
Yeah.
Is the consistency, the durability. He keeps coming out and doing it. He is becoming a great horse. Whereas we give horses titles after 1 and 2 races. To me, they got to do what he's doing.
Yeah. Quilixios, JPR1, they were new rivals and they were quite comprehensively put in place.
And both jump really well, both travel really well. They're just not up to his level.
Yeah. And Jonbon, interestingly, also is becoming much more mature beforehand. And we've seen that very much this season at the Schlur first off. This is him on the way to post prior to that on seasonal debut. Also, we can take a look at Sandown as well. This is him down at the start. And also in the paddock beforehand, he was so placid. This is the full start. And he takes it fine.
He's becoming a man.
Yeah.
He's growing up, but you'd expect him to. And even his style of racing is so placid. He must be a pleasure to ride.
Yeah. There was a point on Saturday I was wondering whether has he gone too far in the opposite direction? But no. I mean, the proof is, because often a change of behaviour can draw your attention in a paddock, whereas actually this is just maturity, as you say.
It is completely maturity. Like Hedgehunter, to the day that he retired, never stopped sweating when he went racing.
Yeah.
But if he didn't sweat, you were worried.
Yeah, exactly. So, as Ruby's already mentioned, it sounds like Nicky Henderson with Jonbon and Willie Mullins with Energumene have both got their sights set on the Clarence House, and this is a race that they target many, many times. This is their 10 most recent runners where one or the other one has had a runner in the rest. El Fabiolo would have gone there if Ascot hadn't have been abandoned and the race was rerun at Cheltenham 7 days later.
Yeah. How did we think Twin Light was going to beat Sprinter Sacre? Sprinter Sacre didn't win either.
No.
That was an interesting decision.
So it's clearly a race that they like. They've each won it 3 times, Willie Mullins and Nicky Henderson, since it became a Grade 1 in 2007. And Nicky Henderson has also won it 3 times previously when it was a handicap. That should be a great race. Hopefully it will be.
Izzy beat Azerty up. Izzy beat Azerty up.
Yes. Yeah, famously. A huge performance from Azerty. It was, conceding weight to Isio. Sorry to bring it up.
I brought it up.
Let's have a look at the social poll, because you asked a question about the 2 mile. We asked you a question, rather, about the 2 milers at the weekend. And this was the question that we asked you. Which horse came out of the weekend with his champion chase claims most enhanced? And there was a cheeky one in there, a horse that remained in his box over the weekend. Gaelic were at 13%. But resoundingly, you felt it was Jonbon, and we agree, don't we?
We do. We do, definitely. I do too, yeah.
Yeah. But there are some views as well. So let's start off with Giant Causeway, who's the iron horse. So it's definitely Jonbon for Giant's Causeway. He ran well, but he points out that the 2nd, 3rd and 4th are rated 155, 154, 153. It's hard to rate as Jonbon's best performances in his view. And then he's got this meme, Ruby, that the kids are apparently sharing below. This is a chill guy, apparently. He's pointing out his pre-race demeanour as well.
Oh, that's what that is.
It is, apparently. It's a dog in casual clothing. It's a meme. Ask your kids.
Wonderful.
Giant's Causeway carries on. He adds that he doesn't think that Banbridge is a Queen Mother Champion chase horse, as you were just saying, Ruby, and the weight difference as well. And he said that Gaelic Warrior's claims can't be enhanced as the others didn't run poorly enough for that to happen.
Wouldn't disagree with him.
No, nor me.
No.
Mention of Gaelic Warrior. This is where we like to see him. We can have a look at the betting for the Paddy Rewards Club Chase, a Grade 1 over 2 mile 1 at Leopardstown over Christmas. He is the 11-8 favourite. This against race-fit rivals is a tough enough ask.
It will be, and I know he's won an Arkle going left-handed, but his record at Leopardstown over fences is 0 from 1, I think. He did win, of course, a handicap hurdle at Leopardstown, but I'd say he was pretty much entitled to win that race off the mark he was on. But yeah, it will be interesting for him, and I'd imagine a few of those rivals from his stable will turn up.
Yes.
With a run under their belt.
Exactly, which will be very interesting. El Fabiolo, however, will not be mating Christmas. He also might be going up in trip. Willie's been warning that the horse isn't fit enough and might make Christmas, and now he said he isn't going to.
No, he hasn't started working him, so no, he won't make Christmas, and I'd probably be surprised if he let Tampus ready enough as well.
Right, OK. If El Fabiolo goes up in trip, and maybe even Ilete Tom might encounter these kind of horses, the horses that are running in the Peterborough Chase at Huntingdon on Sunday, in which Giello took the scalps of Protectorat and Ginny's Destiny. Yeah,
he did, and was well back to do so as well. Nickelback booked out, Manila Drama, Protectorat dropped in, Genie's Destiny, but Giello was always taking Charlie Deutsch. He was absolutely running away with him pretty much most of the race. Now, Protectorat was jumping a bit left, Genie's Destiny made a mistake here, dragged these hind ones, and when he landed at this fence, you could already see Harry Cobden niggling him away from it. He never got into any kind of rhythm. Protectorat missed early in the back straight and was struggling, and to be honest with you, Giello just had these horses, well, Nickelback dragged them, but Giello was the one that was travelling the comfortablest, and he had these horses beating up a stick a long way from home. It was a massive performance from Giello. Only a 6-year-old. It is Protectorat and Genie's Destiny. I know you can say Genie's Destiny was beating a mile in the Paddy Power, but come on, he was a good novice last year, and he's come down here. If you took Giello out and Protectorat comes down here beside Genie's Destiny, or getting the better of Genie's Destiny, you would take that form at face value. And for me, you have to take it at face value, and Giello was the one that impressed.
I wonder whether it might be exaggerated a little bit, the margin of superiority, I wonder whether Giello is particularly suited going right-handed. He's been largely campaigned right-handed, and Protectorat has been kept away from right-handed tracks and largely campaigned left-handed. Now, I know that most of our top targets in Britain are on left-handed tracks, but nonetheless, there might be a reason why that gap is exaggerated, perhaps?
Possibly, and look, Harry did drop him in, and he was going a bit to his left, but I'm not so sure. I don't think he was ever going well enough. He was beaten too far from home to say that it was just left or right-handed that caused the difference. No, that's not for me anyway.
OK. Dan Skelton says he's not going to go to the King George with Protectorat for that reason. Gin is Destiny. OK.
He's not going to the King George because he couldn't win the Peterborough.
Yeah. Well, that...
You can blame left-handed and right-handed if he wants to. If he won the Peterborough, he would be. He got run over. That's why he's not going to the King George.
That too. Although he was saying...
That's the obvious reason.
He was saying that he felt that the horse had shown his well-being in that race. I'm not sure I agreed with that. You clearly don't either.
No.
No. The winner, Jello, will be going to the Fleur-de-Lis at Windsor. Obviously, the Fleur-de-Lis used to be staged at Lingfield. It's quite a young race anyway. And we're going to find out more this Sunday about how Windsor rides, because it's no longer a figure of 8. It's a sort of squashed loop.
I saw a map of it. It looked fine. But I only rode in Windsor a couple of times. It was definitely soft a few times I was there.
Yeah, down by the river.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're moving away from Lingfield because of its propensity to have such deep ground. And Gin is Destiny, I mean, excuses first time, not fit enough and dragged his hind legs through the water. He hasn't got much experience going right-handed, but I couldn't see that as being an issue. He's just not quite back yet, is he?
Doesn't look it. Mistake there as they went by the stands. And again, he was beaten at the back of the next fence. Like, that's barely at halfway.
Let's take a look at the King George betting, shall we? And the big news this week involves Spillane's Tower, who's there at the top of the market. He needs to be supplemented. He's the 5-2 favourite with Paddy Power. The news from Jimmy Mangan being that he will only run provided the ground is soft enough. He's a great addition to the race if he does.
He would be, yeah. He would be a huge addition to the race. Cracking run in the John Durkin, really good novice last season. It's a funny one, isn't it? Kempton could be good ground, like, couldn't it?
I mean, it tends to be the best ground in the country. I mean, that's one of the key reasons why Kempton is so important to British jump racing, I think, because it's not really, really deep. It tends not to be really deep ground at Christmas. It's a nice surface for a top-class horse like Spillane's Tower, who's the one on the right there in that picture.
But he wants a cut in the ground.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Yeah. Next Tuesday, supplementary, is it?
Don't ask me difficult questions.
I think so.
The bad news, though, from that same John Durkin race is that Fast or Slow, unfortunately, is out for the season. I was really upset for Martin Brassel here.
Yeah, absolutely, for Martin Brassel and for the Mulrynes. It is a fair blow on JJ Slevin, obviously, who will be back from injury shortly as well. So, huge blow for all connections. Really, really good horse, but hopefully he'll be back.
Yeah, hopefully he will be. Another horse that we hope to see at Christmas at Kempton is Il Est Français. He was such a fantastic winner of the Courtauld Star last Christmas. And he's had a couple of blips on his record since then, but we saw what a monster he is, what he's absolutely capable of. Noel George was talking on Nick Luck-Daly's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's acknowledged that the horse has bled a couple of times in the past, but he seemed to be relatively confident that they could find a solution to that issue. From the outside, though, it just leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Oh, it has to leave you wondering. I don't believe there is a solution, Lydia, so obviously you keep them as healthy as they can, keep them as fresh as they can, but it's a big if with a horse. And look, he'd be a wonderful addition to the race if he thought he wouldn't bleed, but if he does burst, he'll just cut out like he did in Otay.
Yeah, his participation hinging on how he goes in the next few days. Now, we're going to fly a little bit of a kite next, because you saw the betting for the King George. Corbett's Cross obviously features quite highly. JP McManus potentially having him and Spillane's Tower. What happens? I mean, is one of these horses, JP McManus has got a load of horses in this division. If Corbett's Cross doesn't really deliver in the King George, could you see him potentially ending up in the staying hurdle division?
It will depend on how he jumps. I know the way you're thinking was a bit deliberate as a novice last year, ended up winning a Grade 1, whereas Corbett's Cross was quite high in the 4-miler. He was high at entry when he was third in the Grade 1 there. It'll depend on how he jumps in the King George, and if his jumping lets him down, yeah, you could see him back as a hurdler.
Yeah, because it's a relatively shallow division. Lots of the horses that you would normally expect to be turning up year on year aren't going to necessarily be there this time around. You've got Chihupu, yes. You've got Strong Leader, and the other one I thought I'd throw at you, and we can take a look at them. Here are two cheeky ones. Corbett's Cross on the left, Mystical Power on the right. Stayers Hurdle. Fancy it?
his mother didn't stay, and he's not as good as her.
Because Willie Manners, we played him saying, perhaps he needs to go up in trip. And I said he's a horse that just baffled me towards the end of last season. So I thought he was a speedster, and then he won via staying at Punchestown. But 3 miles, I'm not sure.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's the right idea for him, but it doesn't stick out to me anyway.
OK. Those were the kites that we flew.
Okay, gents, next item on the agenda is we need to shoot something to use in the ad slot for the Road to Cheltenham.
The what?
Road to Cheltenham ad slot?
The Road to Cheltenham?
Yeah, Paddy Power sponsored the Road to Cheltenham on Racing TV. You should probably know that.
How much is that costing us?
Doesn't matter.
Ah, come on, you know I'm on the Road to Cheltenham.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. We already know you're on the Road to Cheltenham.
Oh, thanks, Tom. So now you want the viewers to endure me for the show and the ad slot?
Well, we can't afford to bring in anyone else.
Because the amount of bloody money we're paying to sponsor the thing.
Oh, forget it.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham. Apparently. First I've heard.
So let's move on to the Novice Chasers, shall we? We already had a sneak preview of the Henry VIII, how that was won comparatively with the Tingle Creek. It was just 4 runners, and it was won pretty impressively by Load of Sud.
Workmanlike, I'd say, more than impressive. Down memory lane was slow through the tape, and he was very slow at the first 2 fences down memory lane. Way up in the air at the first, lost a good bit of speed, and again at the second fence. Now the horse in front is a magnificent jumper, Touch Me Not, and he got these horses stretching behind him. Pings the first to the line of 3 in the back, attacks the second one, but he does end up way off the third one and ends up in the middle of it, and somehow manages to keep himself upright. Yeah, he got there. Load of Sud then caught up on him. Again, down memory lane, up in the air. He was just way too deliberate. I mean, down memory lane lost more than 6 miles per hour at 4 of these fences. You can't do that in a 2-mile chase, and he's probably the one that's going to improve most. Now, Load of Sud was awkward at the second last, and again at the last, lands on all 4s, which is not a great way to do things. But I probably was impressed with how he managed to dig it out and get going again against the hill in Sandown when he missed the second last and the last. I think the one that's going to improve the least, even though he made a bad mistake, is Touch Me Not. I think he's a brilliant jumper, and it's his ability to jump that's made him competitive, winning at Craddockstown, and made him competitive in the Henry VIII. But I think as the novices either side of him improve with experience, he's going to find it harder.
So they had the better novice hurdling form as well, didn't they? So you think it's his technique that's allowed him to sail higher.
And he's exactly has allowed him to. He's taken full advantage of it and well placed. And I don't think the mistake cost him because the fence just parted and he landed galloping. But his jumping is a sight to behold. But I think the others will catch up to him.
Load of Sud is the best novice chaser we've seen so far this season, but the comparison with Jonbon tells you it's a very attainable level, and you've just called that workmanlike as well. I
think it was because of the 2 mistakes at the last. He didn't kick away from them. And you're looking at Touch Me Not and then how down memory lane jumped, and maybe you're expecting him to be a bit more impressive. He was definitely more impressive in a lesser race at Cheltenham, and maybe a sounder surface might help him, but he's gotten the job done, and I guess with the 2 mistakes he's done well to go to the line the way he did. Different
ground. I tend to agree with you. A sounder surface will probably suit better. Can do left-handed, can do right-handed. The interesting thing that Dan Skelton said afterwards was that he and Harry had a conversation about how much the horse found after his defeats at Newbury and at Cheltenham, and they really liked the way he finished off that race with that in the back of their mind.
Yeah, he just probably wasn't trying to repel better handicapped horses.
Yeah, that went past very quickly as well. The previous day at Sandown, over 3 miles, a relatively new novice chase, the Isha, was won doing handstands by handstands.
Not quite doing handstands. Cadell, lucky at the first, over jumps downhill, slithers out under Derek Fox. They all then got into a pretty good rhythm. It was 3 miles and then jumped the first pond fence. Everyone seemed happy enough. Cadell again was awkward at that second last on the first circuit, and Resplendent Grey at the back. He always looked like he was going as fast as he was able. Now, I don't know, the fences make him look slow, or is he just that slow? But he was always the one that was off it. Handstands had improved a good bit from Wincanton, travelled super under Ben Jones, led away from the second last. Good jump at the second last, and again at the last fence. And Resplendent Grey runs on when it's all too late. But I don't know, does the runner-up want cheek pieces?
Possibly.
Wants something to make him jump anyway, because he's not attacking these fences and it's taking him too long to do it. But handstands a step forward considerably, and he's a decent novice.
Yeah, he fell on his debut. He was pitched into Grade 2 company at Wincanton on his debut over fences. Obviously, he was well thought of as a novice hurdler as well. It's great that he retained his confidence because he was looking for the fences. He was wanting.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely enjoyed it, and up to 3 miles, it definitely seemed to help. The Rising Stars he fell in, wasn't it?
Yes.
2.5 at Wincanton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about Resplendent Grey. In lesser company, he looked at paced over 2.5, and then he's
company.
Yeah.
But he outpaced it. You think down away from the stands, God, is he going to be involved at all?
Yeah.
Yet he keeps going at it. You like the way he keeps finding and keeps trying, but you just like him to jump a bit quicker.
Yeah. Right, let's head over to Ireland for another key novice chase performance, and this is Ile Atlantique making his debut over fences, Ruby.
Yeah, a big field at Navan last Saturday afternoon. He lined up wide on the track. You had Waterford Whispers, Good Land, Man's Way, What's Up Darling. Pretty decent field. Attacked these fences early. Lucky here, the fence past the stands he put down under Paul Townend, and then at the next fence he was good there, but at the 9th fence he comes out of Paul's hands, and you know he was attacking him. Good jump at the last ditch. Waterford Whispers got onto his tail. Good here, and he's stretching. He's only one on the bridle. Now the capo falls here. He was the only horse who tried to follow Ballyburn. Atlantique got in good and safe at the last, and good to see Goodland back as well, Lydia. He'd been off the track for a good while. I'm sure Barry Connell will be happy with how he ran. Waterford Whispers was second. Good performance from Ile Atlantique, but what he has to do is back it up. Last year he didn't. He won a maiden hurdle and that was it.
Yeah, and he was vulnerable at the business end of the race quite a lot. I wonder whether the rhythm of chasing is going to suit him a lot better than hurdling potentially.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will, but you're hoping he's a bit stronger and can build on what he did on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. We've got a tweet for you. This is from Rover Joyce saying, with the Novice Gold Cup in Ferryhouse 2 weeks later this year, will the main 2.5-mile novices run at Cheltenham at an inadequate trip? Now there's a break. Ile Atlantique, Ampere Pass, Slade, Steel. I mean, there's the magnetic pull of Cheltenham. I know it's no longer a graded race, but it's still going to be a very good race.
The Novice Handicap?
At Cheltenham, yeah.
It wouldn't attract any of those horses, I wouldn't have thought. Unless Slade Steel gets a favourable mark, but I couldn't see it attracting William Mullins. He's never won a handicap chase in Cheltenham. He's not going to run any of them with top weight.
That's true.
So those horses won't be in the race. But as regards the Ferryhouse race, well, before there was ever a 2.5-mile novice chase at Cheltenham, the Ferryhouse race was there. And I don't think it kept many horses away from Cheltenham, so I don't think so. Only time will tell.
Yeah. And I suppose I'm just thinking that the likes of Plutar ran in the 2.5 mile. You can still get a very classy
as a 5-year-old,
horse.
wasn't he? Yeah. He was well placed. He'd run right-handed over fences and got himself a mark. That was a great handicapping job.
Yes, yeah. But I take your point about Willie Mullins and the novice handicap chase. There is just that magnetic pull of the Cheltenham Festival. Keeping the theme with Willie Mullins, let's take a look at Dancing City's debut over fences, shall we?
Yeah, this is Punchestown on Tuesday at Mossy Fen Park, booked out in front of Shannon Royal, Dancing City and Olympic Man, and it didn't take this race long to develop into 2 divisions. Now Mossy Fen Park got very idle in front early in this race. Dancing City was popping away in Paul Townend's hands, but Mossy Fen Park was running around away from the stands, and Paul moved up to join Darragh O'Keefe as they climbed up the hill to fence 7 or 8, I think it was. I liked the way this horse jumped. He was careful enough, got plenty of height, lobbed along over 3 miles. He ended up in front here at the bottom of the hill with a good jump and made the best of his way home, but he was in control of the race from there. Very quick, and he got in deep at the ditch at the bottom of the hill. Jumps to the front here, Shannon Royal, and they pulled a mile away from the others. Olympic Man did his best to put himself on the floor at the 4th last. He had been an ordinary jumper of hurdles. I did think he had been jumping better up to that point when he made that mistake. Again, Olympic Man at the 2nd last wasn't spectacular, neither was Mossy Fen Park. Now Paul does have to ride Dancing City down to the last. He was obviously getting a bit empty for him, but he pops the last and he manages to hold off Shannon Royal. That said, Dancing City did take at least 1 run last season. He could have even taken 2 to win a race. From memory. He would improve plenty, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that was a perfectly nice start, as you say, just keeping concentrated over the last. I did think the Olympic Man's method was just to run through the obstacles.
Well, he definitely did that when he was running over hurdles too.
Did he?
Yeah.
Is he going to learn? Looks like a bit of a blockhead to me.
I don't know.
Right.
He's no spring chicken either, is he? Olympic Man?
No. But yeah, a promising start from Dancing City, who ended up last season winning at both Aintree and at Punchestown over hurdles, was third in the Albert Bartlett also. Now again, back to another race that we saw a sneak preview of. This is back to the Mare's Chase at Cork that we earlier compared with Hilly Ray. Only by Night was a very impressive winner of this.
She was really impressive, and this race we know was run strongly. Airdrop booked out with Nara. Nara had jumped brilliantly at Goran Park, but she didn't get into a rhythm. Obviously, when you look back at the speed of it, she put down the fences 3, 4 and 5 under Mark Walsh. She just couldn't, at that speed, get into a rhythm, and she does well to get involved. Zenta, who'd been the best hurdler, she got herself out of the race down the back. You can see how she keeps falling away from the back of Only by Night, away from the fourth last. Carry the Blazes run well as well, but Only by Night goes to the second last. Like, she's just jumped into this race under Sean Flanagan. She had beaten Middlesore West at Tipperary, pings the last fence, and goes away to beat Nara, Carry the Blazes and Kilbarry Saint. This was really impressive. She looked like she wanted further when she won at Tipperary. This was 2 miles at Cork, which is slightly more galloping, but even the nature of that race being so strongly run, you could see her going even further. And look, Carry the Blazes lost very little speed either, but you can see, like, even Nara, imagine if she could get into a rhythm. Like, we could see her stuttering in, and she's losing 4.95. She's the one, to me, to take out of it to go and win more races. I'm not saying she'll ever beat the winner, but I think there's plenty more chases to be won by Nara.
Whereas Zenta doesn't seem to be taking defences at all. She was third in this race last year.
She was, yeah. No, she doesn't seem to be progressing at all.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Only by Night, not just how she jumped, but also how she travelled. To keep with the novice chasing theme, let us take a look at Friday's race at Cheltenham, because that looks like it's going to be pretty good. Caldwell Potter, who made a taking debut at Carlisle, is the favourite for it. Django Bai making his debut over fences.
Yeah, Nicky's introduced a couple of horses at Cheltenham this year, hasn't he, already? And Caldwell Potter, obviously we saw him winning at Carlisle. We looked at him last week. He was a bit buzzy, a bit gassy, definitely showed a tendency to jump to his left, and that, look, Cheltenham should really suit him. With this run under his belt and that fizz gone out of him, you'd imagine he should be a better horse again on Friday afternoon, and he does look like an exciting horse.
He does, doesn't he? He looked like he relished fences as well. He's really looking for them, wasn't he?
He is. He's forward going. He was obviously a very good novice hurdler.
Very much so, when trained by Gordon Elliott. Obviously changed hands for that mighty price tag. We've also got an interesting novices limited handicap chase at Cheltenham on the Saturday as well. So we'll be looking at those two Cheltenham races in next week's show, and also this race, an intriguing beginners event at Fairyhouse on Saturday. But next we need to talk about a horse that has shouldered his way into the running order of this show with a fine performance at Punchestown on Tuesday. He wasn't originally in our show, but it is this performance, Ruby, from Kit's Bull, which has got lots of you talking as well, that meant that we felt we ought to look at him.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a good display. And it was a race that quickly developed into a match. Kit's Bull and Colonel Mustard, they jumped out first and second, and by the time they got to the third hurdle, they had pulled well clear of the field. Kit's Bull, he did jump well. Colonel Mustard nodded slightly there, but Keith Donoghue was keen to keep pressing Paul Townend, and that ultimately suited Kit's Bull, who seemed to outstay Colonel Mustard. He jumped really well. He handles a dig in the ground, and for a 4-year-old it was a good performance. But Colonel Mustard is an admirable horse, but he doesn't win very often.
No, but he consistently runs to a level, so he does give you an idea of the innate talent that Kit's Bull would need to have to be able to do that.
He does, and it was a good performance from him, who looks, and Kit's Bull, to be fair to him, looks like a horse with a bit of size and scope that can progress.
I think I took it that it came as something of a surprise, this Kit's Bull performance. Gary O'Brien caught up with Paul Townend afterwards, and this is what he thought.
He'll handle deeper ground and he'll stay further as well, but he beat some nice horses there now.
Didn't he just? The second's a real good yardstick. I was very impressed by his jumping. What did you think?
Yeah, look, he's probably jumping since he's a year, Nick. No, very good, professional what he done, and, grounded out like, and just did everything you want him to do.
Yeah, you sounded like you thought he was a staying type beforehand. Do you still feel that way?
I think he will get further, but he probably surprised me the way he quickened down, we'll say, across the side and into the straight. He's faster on grass than he is on wood chip on here.
So that was what Paul thought. This is what Dawn Leedon thought. Horse of the day, able to make horses behind him look ordinary, included one rated 146. She's excited about Kit's Bull, as is Jim. Great performance for a horse that had been off 8 months and making his Irish debut. Had 3 runs in France previously. Again, he references Colonel Mustard. He's thinking maybe the County Arctic Fire went it off 158. And then on the bridle racing is guessing where he thinks he might be rated, and he thinks that the County could be a good idea. What's your take on this horse, Ruby?
3 runs in France, hadn't he? 1, so that'd be 1 more, would be 5 runs. He definitely showed more on the track than he had been shown, which is always a good sign. But he looks like a chaser down the line. I wouldn't be surprised if Willie aimed a little bit lower maybe than a county hurdle. He might end up there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he aimed at conditions hurdles for the time being, grade 2, grade 3 races, and keep progressing with him.
Mm-hmm. So you see him as having... He's not a novice, is he? Over hurdles?
No.
He's going to have a building career.
Yeah, I'd say he'll try and keep building with him. But he does look a horse with a bright future, and look, he could end up in one of the handicaps come March, but it wouldn't be his immediate target.
OK. One to keep an eye on, then, in Kitzbühel. We're going to end this show this week, though, by focusing on the novice hurdlers. So we're going to start with the winter novice hurdle at Sandown, run there last Friday, and I really liked the winner, Bill Joyce.
Yes, he was impressive, so he was. Bill Joyce jumped outside Quebecois of Paul Nichols's, and he was quite keen under young John Joe. He pulled his way to the front, and he was brave at his hurdles too. And John Joe let him roll on, and they faced down the back, and they went a good gallop. Only 3 of the 6 ended up finishing this race, and there was a lot to like about Quebecois, or Bill Joyce, who had Quebecois flat out halfway down the back. Now Harry Skelton, or Harry Cobden even, gave his horse a chance, and he did come home well enough, Quebecois. But Bill Joyce was always holding him, and they pulled him mile clear of the 3rd horse, which was Pony Soprano, I think. But I like the way this horse did it. I like horse that can go to the line and in Sandown, especially over hurdles. And he was plenty keen early. He's doing lots of things right, Bill Joyce.
Yeah, he's enthusiastic, clearly. And
Yeah.
as you say, that he was pulling away from a horse that was staying on in Quebecois.
Yeah, and Harry Cobden was canny enough. John Joe was getting carted in the back, and he saved a bit to get home, but he still couldn't reel him in.
AJ O'Neill was saying afterwards, this shown by John Joe and AJ O'Neill, that they see him as a staying chaser of the future. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do over hurdles. David Brown was impressed. He was talking about a massive engine that he thinks that Bill Joyce has, and he liked the fact that he was able to pull away despite going quicker than John Joe O'Neill Jr. wanted in the early stages, and he thinks it'll take a good one on this side of the Irish Sea to beat him. We hop over the Irish Sea to our next stop, which is the Navan hurdle won by the Yellow Clay, the Grade 2 on Saturday.
Yeah, a very falsely run race at Navan last Saturday afternoon. Fleur in the Park jumped out. The Yellow Clay sat second. You had Will the Wise, Patter Merchant, Mossy's Sisters, My Great Mate, but for a huge amount of this race, nothing changed. So it picked them up again from the second last hurdle, and Fleur in the Park, who had gone along in front, is now quickening. Paul Townend came to the wide outside on My Great Mate, but that was of to no avail. And I think the Yellow Clay does well to peg back Fleur in the Park here. And I thought Cian Quirk had done really well in front. He dictated things. He hasn't committed yet on Fleur in the Park. Goes to the last hurdle, spots a stride and gets a good jump, and you think he's home, but unfortunately for him, it's a stiff finish in Navan, and the Yellow Clay just about pegs him back. So, look, I think the runner-up got a brilliant ride, but the winner, I'd say, ultimately is a very good horse because he won a race that wasn't run to suit him.
So you're marking him up for that performance, which on first
Yeah.
glance looks just a bit
I am.
ordinary.
It was a crawl. I'm marking him up for it.
Yeah, and trip for him in long term, or does he just need a better
Looks
run race?
a better run race, but looks a pure stayer. And you'd imagine the Lawless looks the obvious target for him.
OK. Next up, we're going to go to Cork to their Grade 3 Stayers Novice Hurdle. This was a great story won by Pray Tell for Des Keneally.
Yeah, and he had plenty of handicap experience, Pray Tell. Manila 6-0 booked out in front under Sam Ewing, but he didn't go that hard, and the Willie Mullins horses definitely didn't force him along for the first circuit. On the second circuit, Darragh O'Keefe had moved into second. He wasn't going to force Manila 6-0 either. Looking to sit, he fell at the third last, and again this turned into a bit of a dash down the straight. Manila 6-0 on the left just for loads of Pray Tell on this side, and a brilliant jump at the last sealed it for Pray Tell. But I do think the race was run not really to suit Manila 6-0, who tried to make the running but wasn't best suited to be going along in front. I think that's Manila 6-0's fourth run. Wouldn't be surprised if he cropped up in a Pertemps qualifier somewhere.
Yes, I can see that. But I agree with you. He didn't enjoy making the run.
No.
He just was a bit sort of leery.
Winner was good though, and a good story.
Let's look elsewhere on the card at Navan and take a look at Jasmine DeVoe over hurdles. This was a very good bumper horse from last season.
He was a good horse, Jasmine DeVoe, but he didn't jump well at all. And even at the last hurdle after a full circuit, he hadn't really warmed up to it. It was pure class that told for Jasmine DeVoe, and he needs to jump a hell of a lot better if he's going to be a top novice hurdler, because winning a maiden hurdle is one thing, Lydia, but trying to compete against better horses, that jumping won't do.
Yeah, agreed. I thought the Enabler ran well, quite a lot.
Did run well, the Enabler back in second, yeah, but he was just way too careful, Jasmine DeVoe.
Yeah, and Workhead as well. I sort of quite liked him long term, but yeah, he's clearly going to have to brush up his jumping now. You're going to have to help me with this Navan hurdle winner, Garev.
Just translate it, Lydia, and go.
Garev Mahagut. Garev Mahagut.
Just go with thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ruby. Please tell me about this winner.
Garev Mahagut again, beat Echoing Silence and an auto portrait. Jumped really well, Garev Mahagut, and quickened up nicely to win a division of a maiden hurdle in Navan last Saturday. White Cap was on the one back in fourth place, but Garev Mahagut was plenty good enough to beat Echoing Silence, and they pulled the right distance away from the third, and a nice break back to the fourth too.
That was a good performance. I mean, he was cruising all the way round.
And jumped super.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Jasmine DeVoe could jump like him.
Well, I mean, it was a quicker time than Jasmine DeVoe. He was more impressive, wasn't he? I mean, the other one's got the bigger reputation. That was the horse that comes out with his reputation more enhanced for me.
Without doubt.
Earlier in the day, we had an eventful first division of that race. So that was second division of the maiden hurdle. Magic Boom won the first division, but that's not all we need to talk about.
No, Kate Doherty was the short price favourite and looked to be cantering along in front when he fell at the first hurdle down the back. Looked to me like he got too high behind and downhill, trips himself then and pecks over. It left the race for Magic Boom to go and win. For Gordon Elliott was lucky at the last Magic Boom, but got the job done. And look, I guess the way the programme was so dry in the autumn, there seems to be loads of maiden hurdles at the moment, but they're all producing winners that are going to make for interesting novice hurdles.
Coming after from every different angle, it's hard to keep on top of it.
There's loads of them, like you've got James's Gate, you ought to know, Skylord. We can have a look at them, but there was 6 of them in 3 days last weekend, or 4 days, because no racing on Monday. But James's Gate, again, a bit like Jasmine DeVoe, he didn't jump great at Punchestown on Tuesday. Joystick had been too keen, 40 coast didn't jump great, and James's Gate, he can probably go for schooling lessons with Jasmine DeVoe. Back to school for the two of them.
Which one do you think will learn better first?
I honestly hadn't thought of that. Maybe that fella might learn a bit quicker.
I thought there was. I don't
he
know.
did more schooling done probably. Oh no, Jasmine came from Crawford's, did he? I think he did. I don't know, it'll be interesting.
Okay. You mentioned You Ought to Know as well?
Yeah, obviously You Ought to Know. Port Julian pulled up in this maiden hurdle, but he was okay. He just cut himself. You Ought to Know, he looked raw enough jumping wise too, but he was a decent bumper horse, and he got off to a winning start for Luke McMahon. So he looked decent enough. Be happy with it. You Ought to Know.
And then if we skip to Cork, we can catch up with Skylord, who you also mentioned.
I thought he was impressive. Again, it wasn't a frantically run race, and this fella quickened sharply to hold off a horse of Willie's, which was Kappa Jib Pike, who looked like he wanted to go a bit further. Tommy Cooper shot around well in third, but Skylord had been well fancied in the bumper last year, didn't deliver on the flat, but most certainly made a promising start over hurdles.
We're going to see a lot of these sort of once race or twice race horses coalescing at Christmas, aren't we? We're going to learn a lot more about this division.
Christmas and into the new year, but look, that's the way it should be. I actually wish there was actually a better split for them next time, that you didn't shove them all into the one races so quickly. That if you create a little bit more of a spread, you make for better clashes.
Is this the semi-final thing?
Not even. That was only the round of 16.
Yeah, if that. Qualifiers.
To me, the season should have 2 natural peaks, Christmas, and then it should peak again in the spring. But look, that's only my opinion.
Right, one area of the novice hurdles that we haven't really touched upon so far are the mares, and obviously one of the major targets towards the end of the season is the Dawn Run. There are other major mares novice races, of course, during the course of the season. We've had a Grade 3 this week at Punchestown. It was won by Hey Sunshine, who I thought was markedly superior to her field.
She looked it, and Paul gave her quite a confident ride. She sat in behind in the Temple Bloodstock colours, who had the winner of the Royal Bond Novice Hurdle last week as well. She jumped well, Hey Sunshine. She's improved with a couple of runs. Caught behind a wall of horses here going to the third last. She's good and quick at the second last hurdle, and when she does get a split off the home turn, she gets out and has gone through it really quickly with a good turn of foot, and then she goes and wins. Do I think, or would you suggest that this is the standard for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle come March time? I don't honestly know. I don't think I've seen a mare just yet that I said, wow, what's that? Hey Sunshine was good, but again, there's just a lot of horses in the shot.
Agreed. Partly a function of the way the race was run, which is why I quite like the way that she put it to bed so decisively.
Yeah.
You're not impressed, are you?
I am, but she was as far in front 5 strides after the last hurdle as she was at the winning post, and I have to think there'll be better mares coming yet.
It's this part of the novices hurdling scene is really in the early stages, isn't it? If you have a look at the Dawn Run anti-post betting, there's a horse that hasn't even set foot over hurdles in public. Maureen, the Punchestown bumper winner at the top, she's quite a short price as well.
Ridiculous price. Maureen, yeah, she hasn't run over hurdles. She ran once in a bumper and picked up a minor setback just leading through a stable tour, and look, she hasn't been seen out yet. She seems to be going fine, but madness to see her.
Indeed. In Britain, listen to your heart for the Skeltons at Newbury.
Yeah, I thought she was tough. And again, like the Down Royal form, Sans Risk, won in Down Royal, came to Newbury and she got run over. So I don't know. I'm not sure where that form is. I am reserving judgment.
Yeah. Agreed. Other mares to watch, That's Nice, who won for Nicky Henderson at Warwick, and Anno Power, who won for Harry Fry at Sandown. But again, really early days in this. There'll be another significant novice hurdle event at Cheltenham this Saturday. That is the Albert Bartlett Bristol Novices Hurdle. Skyjack Hijack has been really well campaigned by Jenny Candlish, improving all the time. Very straightforward horse. I think it's won 6 already.
Yeah, Jet Blue, David Cotton. It's catching my eye. Wonder what that is.
And we've also been directed to take a look at some bumper horses, a significant bumper being held this weekend. That is Sundays at Navan. Joe Seward has contacted us to point out the rich history that this race has. Sir Gerhard, Envoi Allen, Sam Crow, Don Cossack, Dun Guib have all won it. Gordon Elliott is seeking a 9th win. He's got 5 of the 9 entries.
Calypso's chance was impressive in that one.
And Cocktail Brute, the other one. He's also talking about Heads Up for John McConnell.
Yeah, he's a fair horse too. Or looks a fair horse.
So, I mean, it's good that Joe's introduced the bumper horses, so we don't have to.
You okay with that?
Bumper horses, yeah. Well, it's a division I find really difficult to...
I thought you'd have the cross-country horses before the bumper horses.
I probably would, given a free hand, but Joe has instead directed the show to have the bumpers. I just feel like I know a lot less than... The form is not there. It's really hard to access, and the thing I enjoy about bumpers is actually seeing them in the paddock. That's what I like, to sort of see what they're going to be when they go over obstacles.
Time will tell.
Will. Right. So that's our gallop through the last 7 days. A quick look ahead to the weekend as well. In the meantime, before we rejoin you next week, which will be for a Christmas special, you can have a look at the column. That's on racingtv.com/Road to Cheltenham. But next week is going to be a packed show, Ruby, because we're going to be looking ahead to the first peak of the season that you were just describing, all the Christmas action.
Yeah, I was thinking that because I'm not sure we're going to have much action from this weekend. We won't get much out of Navan on Sunday anyway.
You don't think?
No.
I haven't looked at that card. Is it, apart from that bumper?
Every horse should have its day, but I'm not so sure Sundays should be what Ireland is making this Sunday.
It's kind of has got midweek feel to it.
It certainly does.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, I mean, there are some significant races this weekend, which we will look forward to talking about. Some at Cheltenham, the Beginner's Chase at Fairyhouse, but the majority of next week's show will be looking ahead to the Christmas action. Ruby and I will be back with you then. Until then, enjoy the racing this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.